Hi, I'm Zibby Owens, and you're listening to Moms Don't Have Time to Read Books. This 30-minute podcast features a new author interviewed by me every single day, 365 days a year, for about 30 minutes. I am also the publisher for Zibby Books, which publishes 12 books a year in fiction and memoir. Our books are already out now. You can check it out on zibbybooks.com. And we have a magazine called Zibby Mag, where we have lots of wonderful essays and lifestyle features. That's at zibbymag.com. We have classes at zibbyclasses.com. And I recently opened a bookstore in LA called Zibby's Bookshop at 1113 Montana Avenue at 11th Street in Santa Monica. I hope that you are able to enjoy some of our other offerings. But this here podcast is the basis of all of it and started in 2018. And no matter what I do, this is basically my favorite thing. Enjoy. Ana Reyes is the author of The House in the Pines, a novel. Ana has an MFA from Louisiana State University. Her work has appeared in Bodega, Père Noir, New Delta Review, and elsewhere. She lives in Los Angeles, where she teaches creative writing to older adults at Santa Monica College. The House in the Pines is her first novel and was a Reese's book club pick. Ana recently did an event at Zibby's Bookshop, and if you'd like to see some pictures of that, just go to @Zibby's Bookshop on Instagram. Welcome, Ana. Thank you so much for coming on Moms Don't Have Time to Read Books.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Oh, I'm so excited you're here too. Start by telling listeners, please, what your book is about.
The House in the Pines is my debut novel. It's a psychological thriller, and it's about a young woman named Maya who lives in Boston, and she's trying to move on with her life after a difficult past. And she comes across this viral video on YouTube of her ex-boyfriend, Frank, sitting across from a young woman at a diner who drops dead inexplicably. He never touches her. She just drops dead. And this is chilling, but what makes it even scarier is that this isn't the first time it's happened. 7 years ago, Maya's best friend, Aubrey, was also talking to Frank when she dropped dead, and Maya saw this happen. So she's convinced that he somehow killed both of these women, even though there's no evidence and he never touched them. And it's not even clear what killed them. There's no weapon, there's no marks on their bodies. So she has to somehow figure out how he did it and prove that he did it. And that entails going back to her hometown in the Berkshires, and more specifically, returning to his house in the Pines, a mysterious house that he built himself out in the woods.
Wow. I know in the book, there are all these theories, like, could it be like spontaneous death syndrome or something like that? You know, like all these, like, what could it possibly be? They were like in conversation at the same time and they just dropped dead. So scary. Yeah. Haunting. Don't even want to know about the research of having to do research on all of that. I also thought it was so funny how she's watching the YouTube video because she's like too distracted to be able to read. And here we are like reading the book.
Right. Yeah. She's an insomniac when we meet her. So I felt like watching videos is probably what you can do when you don't have the attention to read a book.
Totally. You also go into the effects of medication and how she was medicated early on for one thing that changed into another, and then getting off meds is so difficult. Like, talk a little bit about the sort of pharmacological experience she's gone through and what it did to her, really.
So she started off taking this medication to help her sleep. And that was actually based on an experience in my own life that I was dealing with when I started writing the book. In my book, Maya is buying her Klonopin from a friend.
Yes.
My life, I was actually prescribed it by a doctor in Los Angeles. And when I moved out of state, I moved to Louisiana and I got a new doctor who said, you can't be taking this every night. But I'd been taking it for years. My original doctor hadn't told me that I couldn't. You know, he kept refilling my prescription every single month. Didn't warn me at all, actually, that it would be very difficult to quit. So when my new doctor said, cutting you off, I was like, well, okay, I guess that's probably for the best. I don't want to take it for the rest of my life anyway, but I had no idea what I was in store for. So I stopped sleeping completely. I had a lot of anxiety. It was really the most difficult thing I'd ever been through.
Did you stop cold?
I did.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
Yeah, I stopped cold turkey. And the new doctor that I had didn't really seem to think that. She was like, yeah, you might have a couple difficult weeks sleeping, but she was like, this is the best. You need to get off it. And I do agree that it was good for me to stop, but I shouldn't have stopped that that abruptly. And so I was plunged into this situation where I thought maybe I was going crazy because the new doctor didn't seem to think this was a real phenomenon. My old doctor hadn't said it was a possibility. So I felt like maybe I was losing my mind. Maybe it really was not the medication, but me. And I went through a very difficult time. And at that time, I was also writing my book because it was grad school, and I was teaching a class, and I was writing my book. And I found myself writing about what I was going through the lens of my character. And somehow that really helped me deal with it. I think writing is very therapeutic for all of us. But I think especially for me at that time, I was able to have some distance from the situation because it was happening to Maya, my character, rather than to me. And I was also able to have more compassion for her than I was for myself. So it really helped me immensely through that process. And in addition to that, it turned out to be the perfect dilemma for an unreliable narrator, because when you're not sleeping and when you're confused, you think you might be going crazy. It turns out that's also a great sort of setup for this mystery where we don't know if she is going crazy. What Frank has done, these killings that she believes he's committed, seems completely impossible. So as a reader, I tried to make it so that we're questioning her along with everyone around her, where we're like, how could you believe this? Is it you? Or are you actually psychotic? So it turned out to be sort of the perfect tool for a thriller writer to be going through that. But at the time, it wasn't fun. It was a complete nightmare. But writing the book really helped me through it. And Maya helped me through it.
Wow. It's like the ultimate self-talk. I mean, they literally say that in therapy. Like, imagine this was a friend of yours who was going through this. Would you be so hard on her? And you're like, no, I would be like, oh, are you okay? Not like, you're so pathetic.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
It's the ultimate therapeutic payoff. You should really, you have to like thank a doctor or something for the massive success of the book and all that.
Exactly.
Did you read a book called May Cause Side Effects by Brooke Siam?
No, I haven't even heard of it.
It's a memoir. It came out maybe within the last year, and she lives in Las Vegas. But anyway, it's about her experience going off meds. You should just read it. The two of you could like have a nice conversation about it. She's really cool. Can put you in touch or whatever. But I did not even know just how much like almost like pseudopsychosis, not psychosis, but just all of the mental health implications of going off meds and not doing it in a tapered, careful way under medical supervision. And I learned a lot of that from her book. And now I feel like I can come to your book like fully in the know about it all.
Yeah. And psychosis is right. I mean, it really can't. That is a potential side effect. And there have been people who have just completely had psychotic breaks, and especially when the research that I've done as well about this was that when people started to recognize benzodiazepine withdrawal as an actual syndrome, prior to that, there were people having psychotic breaks, winding up in hospitals, and it took them a while to realize this person's not psychotic. They're going through a very specific syndrome. So it does cause psychosis in extreme cases.
And then people worry, well, wait, maybe I am psychotic while not on a medicine.
Yes,
right.
Exactly.
Which is so then they go back on the medicine. And then it's like this whole vicious cycle. It's actually very smart for these pharmaceutical manufacturers. Not that they planned it, but I'm just saying it would be a very smart repeat customer tool.
Right.
Yes. Yeah. But anyway, I'll just leave it at that. So how did you know you were a thriller writer?
I actually didn't start out writing a thriller. I started out writing a book that I wasn't really sure what genre it fit into, but I grew up reading thrillers. My favorite writers were Christopher Pike and R.L. Stine. All the Goosebumps and Fear Street books were what I read throughout my entire childhood. And then I moved on to Stephen King. And so that was always my preferred genre. And to this day, some of my favorite writers are Shirley Jackson, Gillian Flynn. So it felt very natural to move in that direction, but it took actually some goading by my agent, who was really supportive of the first draft, but said, I feel like you've written this very creepy story. The twist about the house, that was always there, but I hadn't really built up to it in a sort of thriller fashion. So it took her sort of encouraging me to try to make it more of a thriller. And what that entailed was reading the books that I would be reading anyway, but taking copious notes and noting, sort of charting the way that they worked. So, I would note if there was a red herring, or I would note when a chapter had a cliffhanger, or just the various tools that the writers were all using that are available to anyone, but you really have to identify them or I had to identify them in order to put them into my own work. So that process, the story didn't change much, but the delivery changed over the course of my editing it with the help of my agent. That took almost 2 years. So that was a real learning curve, but I'm so glad that I did it, because I think everything I write from here on out is going to be a thriller, have some horror elements. And I'm just so glad that I took the time to learn those things, because those tools are just invaluable.
You should write a little thing about, what I learned and how to write a thriller or something. I mean, not like you want to give away all your secrets, but they're not truly secrets. It's just you've done the work. I don't know. I think that would be a really interesting article, for aspiring authors.
Yeah, absolutely. And I would love to teach a class on it someday when I get back to teaching, because it's so much fun. And yeah, those tools are for everyone.
We have these online Zibby classes. You could even just do a one-time workship on it if you wanted.
Yeah, I would love
want to
that.
do it? Oh my gosh, that would be so fun.
I would love that.
Okay, I'm going to put you in touch with Darcy, who runs our classes. And,
Thank you.
oh my gosh, I would take your class on that. No.
I would love that.
So start from when you were little. Like, when did you first write? When did you first know you liked it? And when did you get into these Stephen King books? And could you sleep at night? And did you crawl into bed with your parents?
A lot of that. I did a lot of crawling into bed with my parents. That was... they had to really stop me from doing that, because that was my default. But I think it started with R.L. Stine and the Goosebumps books.
The writing piece too.
The writing piece, yeah. So I started as a major reader. That was sort of the biggest thing. And the first story that I wrote, I was living in Pittsfield, Massachusetts, the setting of my book, and their public library had a children's writing contest. And the winner of the contest won a gift certificate to a local bookstore. So my first story that I wrote, it wasn't because I wanted to be a writer. It was because I wanted to win more books. So that's actually what got me into writing. And the first story that I wrote, it was also about a creepy house in the woods and a little girl who gets lost in the forest. I think I was inspired not just by the Christopher Pike and R.L. Stine books that I was reading, but also by all the fairy tales that I grew up loving, Hansel and Gretel or Little Red Riding Hood, where you have children lost in the woods. Those really haunted me, running through the forest and pursued by some kind of creature or monster. So that was sort of the type of thing that I first wrote. But I didn't win the contest, and years went by, and I always had that impulse to write. So I would write poems, or I would write short stories, and they were not very good at first, but I kind of kept at it when the inspiration struck, but I never stopped being an avid reader. So years passed. After college, I actually got a job being a professional script reader. So I was again a reader before a professional writer. And that job was really great, because I learned so much about story structure from screenplays, which are really, sort of the masters at structure. And when I got laid off from that job, that was when I decided, okay, I really want to take my writing seriously now. So I'm going to apply to MFA programs and find one that's fully funded, so that can be, I don't have to work while I'm in the program, and I can just really devote myself to reading and writing. So that's what I did. And I got into the Louisiana State University program, which is 3 years and fully funded. You just have to teach one class. So you have a ton of time to write. And that's how I wrote my first draft of this book.
Oh my gosh. That's like a total dream success story. That's like what go get an MFA, there's your book, you get the agent, here you go. And now it's a book club pick. It's like amazing.
Yeah, I got very lucky.
Wow. It's not luck. It's just great. I mean, it's talent too. I have to say, I listened to your book, the narrator, I think her name is Marisol. Anyway, she's been keeping me company lately. And
She's phenomenal.
Yeah, it was really great. It was really great. I also couldn't figure out how to speed it up on Libro FM, which is better because I try to listen as fast as I possibly can all the time. But my auditory processing is not, I don't know how you feel about this. I can read really quickly, but I can't listen half as quickly. So this was the perfect tempo. And I was so immersed. And I was so it was great. Yeah, really wonderful. So wait, what was it like knowing your book was hitting it big? What did that feel like to you after, what was that like? Well, tell me about it, how you found out and the whole thing.
So I first found out from my editor about the Reese's book club several months before it came out. And she just called me and she said, "Hey, can you hop on a Zoom with your agent? We're here. If you could just hop on." So I had no idea. I didn't know if it was good or bad.
Right.
So I hop on and they're like, "You're going to be the Reese's book club pick." And I was just so shocked because, it was my first novel.
Oh my
I was
gosh.
so excited that it was being published by Dutton, that I had this incredible editor. So to me, that was sort of like the height of the success that I expected for my first book. And when they told me that, I was just so overwhelmed. I was so grateful, so excited. I wanted to immediately tell everybody, but they were like, "Here's the catch. You can't tell anybody until the day, like she's going to make the announcement and then you can tell everybody." And that was the hardest part was, I wanted to shout it from the rooftops and I couldn't tell anybody. So first there was that. And then the book comes out and a little bit more than a week later, I guess it was the following Wednesday. Again, I get a call from my editor and again, we jump on Zoom and this time she's there along with my publicist and the head of marketing and publicity are there and they have cups. And Maya, my editor, is holding a bottle of champagne. So I was like, this is going to be good. And then they told me, "You're number 2 on the New York Times bestseller list." And again, I just felt completely overwhelmed and so excited. And they actually captured the moment on video. So then Reese's book club showed it as a reel on Instagram. So that moment was kind of memorialized. And I just like to look at it sometimes to remember like, wow, that really happened.
Oh my gosh, that gave me chills. I have to go back and find that video. That's awesome. Oh, so inspiring, so exciting. It's so great. So where are you with writing now? What are you working on and how are you like dividing your time between all the publicity for the book and writing and reading and all of that?
Well, I'm working on my second book. I've got a good start on it, maybe a little less than a third of the way into it. And it's coming a lot easier because I feel like I did that work to learn the genre, learn really how to write a book by writing a book. This is hopefully going to come a lot quicker. My first book, start to finish, took almost 7 years. So this I'm hoping to have done much quicker. It's coming a lot faster. And I think it's even creepier. So I'm really excited for people to ask the clients. If they like that, I think they're really going to like this too.
What do you think appeals to you about creepy, terrifying things?
I think I like the mystery of it. So I tend to like mysterious stories more than I like, let's say, slasher books or slasher movies. So what I think I like is the questions of how did this person disappear, or is that house really haunted? So I think it's the mystery, the sort of like mystery box nature of those type of books where you have to keep going to find out what happens. I've always been drawn to mystery, and I think that's why.
Awesome. And what has opened up to you as a result of this early success of the book? Like what opportunities did you just never think you would have? Like something specific that you're just like, this is the coolest.
Well, this podcast is one thing. This podcast, I think all of the publicity is just amazing. Like when I think about the many opportunities that I've had to reach people all over the country, people in Australia are reading the book, people in Canada. So I think that's the biggest opportunity, is that I'm reaching people I never would have imagined reading my book. So I think that's just been incredibly exciting.
That's really great. Very nice answer, by the way. Thank you. Awesome. And what do you like to do when you're not reading and writing?
I love hiking. I live in Los Angeles, so there's some really great places to hike near me at Griffith Park. I like cooking. I love dancing. I used to go out dancing a lot when I was younger. Now I mostly do it in my living room, but I still really enjoy it. I do a lot of YouTube dance videos for exercise.
Oh, that's a good idea. Does that count? It must count.
Oh yeah, there's Zumba, there's the Hollywood. Pop Sugar Fitness has some great dance videos.
Oh, all right. Well, that sounds like a lot more fun. I used to do this dance body class, which I feel like is like a hybrid. You should check it out. They have like a whole app and everything. Yeah, I feel like the music distracted me enough that I didn't realize I was totally working out. But then I was drenched. Trick. Yeah. Trick in the body. And what else are you reading? I know you mentioned a lot of heroes in the past, but like what's on your nightstand now, or what are you looking forward to reading?
A book that actually tonight I'll be in conversation with Jenny Herrera, who wrote The Hunter.
Yes.
And that was just such a fun book.
At a little bookstore in Santa Monica.
Yeah. I'm so excited. Zibby's bookstore, my first time checking out the bookstore, will also be my first time meeting Jennifer, who we've been communicating over email and Instagram. And I just really loved her book. book and she read my book. And we've talked a little bit about how they both share this theme of a character who has to go home again to some secret from their past, and how it's a very common trope. And we've been sort of talking about what's behind that trope. Why is it that people feel compelled to tell stories about returning to where they come from? And we've talked about what that might come from and like why that keeps appealing to people, both the writers and the readers. So we're really excited to talk about that.
Oh,
and I also just had the amazing privilege of reading Mr. Magic, the new book by Kirsten White. She wrote Hyde, and it was so good. It was about a children's show from the 90s that children who watch it, they all remember watching it, but there's no trace of the show ever being online. And nobody can prove that it was ever really on the air. But all these children have memories of watching it.
This is fiction, right?
It's fiction. Oh, yeah.
I know. I was about to tell you all the shows I watched in case, Okay, keep going.
It's like a show that we might have all watched, like Barney or something. And it was led by this strange, charismatic man named Mr. Magic. And so the mystery of the book is sort of who was Mr. Magic and what was up with this show. And something horrible happened on its last episode. So how did that come about? I don't want to give too much away, but
wow, that does sound good.
It was just, I flew through it. It comes out, I think, in August, but I got to read it a little bit early. And that's the most recent book that I read, and I highly recommend it.
Mr. Magic.
Yeah.
Okay. Amazing. All right. I'm excited for that. Awesome. All right. Well, I hope you have a great time at the bookstore. And I know we're trying to stream it tonight, so we'll see if that works, because I really want to watch. And yeah, I hope to see you in LA sometime. I'm there a lot. So hopefully our paths will cross.
I hope so too.
Okay. And I'll be in touch about the class.
Excellent. Really excited about that.
Okay. Awesome. All right. Thanks, Anna.
Thank you so much.
Okay. Bye-bye. Thanks for listening to this episode of Moms Don't Have Time to Read Books. Don't forget to follow me on Instagram at Zibby Owens and at Moms Don't Have Time to Read Books. Also sign up for my newsletter at zibbyowens.com and sign up for my virtual book club and meet lots of authors on Zoom every other week. Thanks so much to Steve and Ryan at Texture Sound for the sound editing. And thank you to Morning Moon Productions for providing this fantastic intro and outro music.